Jay here from Stretford Paddock. This is the Paper Talk. As you can see, we're live, we're in the studio, which means you lot, yes you, need to get involved in all the comments and the chat. Before we get into all the juicy Manchester United stories, I need to tell you that we are doing a watch-along for the Rosenborg game later on today. Ooh, let me turn that down, apologies. Later on today, kickoff's at 5, so we're going to go live at 4. So make sure you join us. It's going to be me, Joe Smith, Adam McCullough. And it looks like it's going to be a bit of a makeshift squad. Obviously, some players have been away for the Euros, so they're not back with the squad as yet. But there's still a few names there that we can see. So it'll be good to see some of the senior players and some of the youngsters as well getting an opportunity in that friendly. So come and join us. And if you're not doing already, make sure you are hitting that like button and hit subscribe as well. We want to get to we want to get to 800,000 subscribers by the end of the week. And with your support, we can get there. Loads of people in the chat already. Before I start getting into comments as well, I'm just going to give you a list of what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about Leny Yoro. What's going on there? Because it looks like that deal might not be dead. When we all heard that Real Madrid were in for him, you think, Real Madrid, listen, I love Manchester United, but if you got the chance to play for Real Madrid, which kind of guarantees you a Champions League, or come to a club that aren't in the Champions League, who are you going to choose? But it looks like there might still be a good chance, or a chance, that United can sign him. Also, Ivan Toney, those rumours have sort of popped up again after they went all quiet, so we'll be getting into that. And a little bit about Luke Shaw. It seems that some Geordies are losing their minds about the fact that Luke Shaw started the Euros final over Kieran Trippier, and we'll be mentioning the fact that Alejandro Garnacho and Lisandro Martinez lifted a trophy last night. Loads of people in the chat already. Jacoya Trot, Will, Cjo, James John, Heaven Soul, all saying hello. Heaven Soul says, will we have watch-alongs for the USA games? They'll be on at odd times in the UK. Yes, you will. You will have watch-alongs to the USA games. We're going to be over in the USA, but we're going to have watch-alongs here from the studio. Then you're going to get post-match reaction from us lot and previews and stuff as well. So we're going to be in America. We're going to be doing loads of stuff around the tour, but there will be watch-alongs. We'll have you covered for everything during pre-season, yeah? Whether that's watch-alongs, whether that's reaction, obviously all the transfer news as well. We'll be interviewing journalists. We'll be interviewing journalists here. And when we go over to the States, we'll be chatting to some journalists there, chatting to former players as well. So make sure, if you're not doing already, you are subscribing to the channel so you don't miss out on any of that good stuff. Let's talk about Leny Yoro then, because this was one that looked like it weren't going to happen, because when you hear, oh, Real Madrid are interested in him, as well as United, you think, oh, Real Madrid, they're probably going to get him, that's the end of that. But there does seem to be something there. Florian Plettenberg has tweeted, as you can see there. Now, he was on the channel last week, spoke to Joseph, and he was saying that, you know, obviously you can see it here from the tweet. Manchester United hope that Leny Yoro will give them his commitment soon. United willing to pay a fixed amount of 40 to 50 million euros for the 18-year-old top talent from Lille. Yoro can sign a contract with United until 2029, plus one as revealed. He's set to decide between Real Madrid and Manchester United soon. There's some sort of intrigue there as to whether Real Madrid are offering the same sort of terms that Manchester United are offering. That could be a carrot for both Lille and for Leny Yoro. It's worth keeping an eye on, obviously. Great talent. I think if we can get him in, that would be a bit of a coup. If you can get a young defender in that is sort of one of the most sought-after defenders in Europe, and get him when Real Madrid are in for him, I know there's a lot of ifs and buts here, but that would be massive. And I just get the impression that, I don't want to get ahead of myself and say, oh, this is going to happen or whatever, but United must have an inclination here that they could get this deal done. I don't think United under Ineos sort of want to embarrass themselves or go for a player they've got no chance of signing whatsoever. I think they want to start doing a bit more due diligence that we've seen in the past, where we've spent an entire summer chasing after Cesc Fabregas only for him to go to Chelsea or whatever. I think that if you're Ineos and you want to do things a little differently, you're going to look at players not only that are good and are good enough to make a difference and can do a job for Manchester United, but also players you can get as well. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with that one. Let me know in the comments what you think about Leny Yoro. I've not seen loads of him, but everyone who talks about him seems to speak very highly of him, and he seems to have that potential to be one of the elite defenders in Europe. Fergal McClennance, who's been a member of the academy for 31 months, says, we think the players we're looking at pointing into a new formation. Yeah, someone was mentioning that the other day, like, we're chasing a few centre-backs. Could we go sort of 3 at the back or 5 at the back, depending on how you look at it, probably 3 at the back with wing-backs? Potentially. I'll have to wait and see what happens. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting summer. You see who we bring in, what Erik ten Hag's going to do, because it was weird for Erik ten Hag last season, because I felt like for almost the entire season, he couldn't quite do what he wanted to do. because he lost Sancho Martinez, because he lost Luke Shaw for more or less the entire season for those two players, because he had to shuffle it around constantly. We had this ever-rotating sort of back four. You had Diogo Dalot playing at left-back at times. You had Aaron Wan-Bissaka playing at left-back. You had Victor Lindelof playing at left-back. You had Johnny Evans. You had Lisandro Martinez briefly. You had Casemiro at centre-back. It was just a bit of a mess. And then I think that obviously affects the entire team because you're taking midfielders out of midfield, putting them in defence. There was a bit of a sort of change around there. Kobe Mainoo, who obviously became a first-team player, he didn't start till November because of injuries. So it just felt a little bit makeshift for almost the entire campaign. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Then you had the FA Cup final where you started without Rasmus Højlund. Was that just a one-off because it was Manchester City? I think it probably was, with Bruno as a false nine. Or is that something that the manager would be open to doing again? We'll have to wait and see. We've just brought in Joshua Zirkzee, of course, so you think we would have at least one striker starting when you've got Højlund and Zirkzee. I'm excited, man. It's exciting times. Loads of people in the chat. Jace Parker said, "Morning, Jay. Love to see you. As per, I'm glad to be watching United again." Yeah, I do. I'm excited to be watching United. I feel like there's a lot of positivity. I say this a lot during pre-season. I go, "Oh yeah, this is it. This could be our season," and all the rest of it. I know it sounds very scouse, but there are reasons to be excited. Martinez coming back into the side is massive. We've obviously bought a striker in, which is always exciting. Plus the fact Ineos are here. Plus the fact we're being linked with quite a few other players, the likes of Leny Yoro, and I'm going to get to some more in a minute. So I think there are reasons to be a little bit optimistic. Stephanie Griffiths in the chat says, "Morning, good morning to you as well, Glenn F. Good to see you." Let's talk about Ivan Toney, because a few months ago, or about even a month ago, I'd have said, no chance, ain't happening, Ivan Toney, forget it. Now you can see it, I think this is from the Evening Standard, or The Standard. It says here, Manchester United and Tottenham in Ivan Toney battle. And if you see the bottom line in that story, it says, but now Man United are sniffing around despite having signed Joshua Zirkzee. So they're saying, look, just because United have signed Zirkzee doesn't mean that we're out of the race for Toney. This has come from Gimme Sport, who say Tottenham remain very interested and hope to agree a fee of around 40 million, despite the £60 million asking price. I was chatting to Joe about this a couple of minutes ago. Now, a few months ago, everyone was like, when Toney came back into the Brentford side and he scored like 3 goals in his first 5 games, whatever it was, everyone was sort of indicating, all the noise was that he was going to move on in the summer and he was probably going to go to Arsenal. And the figures being bandied around were around 80, 90 million quid. And people looking at it going, okay, yeah, he's 28 years old, but he's a proven Premier League striker who scored 20 plus goals or 20 goals a season before. Now he's in England international as well. You're probably going to pay that for him, even though he's not got like 6 or 7 years left in him. Well, probably not, anyway, he might do. That seems about right for a proven Premier League striker. However, Arsenal's interest seems to have cooled. And then when you scratch beneath that, you think, well, there's not a lot of other clubs who are queuing up to get him. Spurs are interested, United being linked, who else? It's not like there's a whole queue of teams that want Ivan Toney. I'm sure they'd have him, but I think the price tag has put people off. The fact he didn't score for the last 12 games has probably given everyone pause for thought, because you're looking at a player here who's had, I think, is it 2 good seasons in the Premier League, 1 season where he missed 6 months because of a ban for gambling, and then when he came back, started off well, then fell off a bit of a cliff, at least scoring-wise. I know his performances weren't always bad, but scoring-wise, he just stopped scoring goals. And that would be a worry for a 28-year-old as well. If he was 21 or whatever, you think, well, worst-case scenario, we move him on, we get some of our money back. But if you buy Ivan Toney, and he plays for you for, let's say, 2 seasons, and he doesn't do the business, once you move him on, he's going to be 30 years old, having had 2 underwhelming seasons, 3 if you count the one just gone. It's going to be difficult to get your money back. And with everyone sort of keeping an eye on PSR and all the rest of it, I think that's why the interest in Ivan Toney might have cooled a little bit. And I think it was all geared towards Arsenal. And if they're not quite feeling it, then all of a sudden, it's not a certainty that Brentford are going to get anywhere near even the 60 million that they want. And if United are looking at it and going, well, maybe we can get Ivan Toney for closer to 40 million, that might seem worth it to them. That might go, United, the club might go 40 million quid for a proven Premier League striker. We'll have a bit of that. And it might even go back to what someone was asking a minute ago about a change of formation. Would United look at perhaps playing 2 strikers? I doubt it, but I would love it. If we went back to 4-4-2, I'd be the happiest man in Manchester, honestly. That's my favourite formation. I know it's old school and people don't do it anymore, but I don't care. My favourite team was the 1994 team when we used to play 4-4-2. Get involved in the comments, let me know. What do you think about Ivan Toney? 2 questions. Would you have him? Do you think we can get him? That's what I want to know. Someone asking about pre-season games on MUTV. I'm sorry, I don't know. Linton Moodley says, let's get Yoro in. Heaven Soul said, I would only pay 25 million to 30 million tops for Toney, to be honest. He's still too volatile and patchy. Fair enough. I think that's a fair comment. He is a little bit patchy. And also, there's the gambling thing. Now, he said he's got a gambling addiction, and I take him on his word for that. I'm an addict myself. I know, not a gambling addict, but I know what it's like to suffer from addiction. So, fair enough. Hopefully he's got treatment and he's not doing that anymore. But it might put clubs off. The fact that he has had a big ban for gambling, that might give clubs a little bit of a reason not to pursue him. Plus, you throw in the mix, he's 28, which is not, in football terms, is not young. And the fact that he's had a bit of a barren spell as well. Yeah, it might not be the level of interest in Ivan Toney you would expect. Because he's weird, Ivan Toney. I think most football fans who you speak to, whether that's England fans, whether it's Brentford fans, whether it's just general football fans, like Ivan Toney, they all watch it and say, oh, he's a good player, yeah, you'd have him. But it's not about the fans, is it? It's about whether the club's willing to spend the money on him. Bob Rep says, morning, Jay. Joe Corcoran says, I'd take Toney and he'd be a good addition, depending on price. Him and Rasmus rotating sounds great. Yeah, because I think Xerxes well can play in different positions. So you could have Xerxes, you could have Rasmus Højlund, and you could have Eindhoven. Also, as well, I think you should have 3 strikers regardless. You shouldn't just have 2. We had 2 last season. And then look what happens. Anthony Martial's injured for a big chunk of the season. Then you've got 1. And then when he gets injured, you've got none. So having 3 strikers, I don't think is beyond the realms of possibility, especially when one of them, in Joshua Xerxes, can play in different positions as well. Jacoya Trot says, if you get Toney signed, you would have been right about getting him while he was serving his ban. Could have gotten him even cheaper. Yeah, I was saying about a year ago, we should have bought him when he was banned. Or when, I mean, people thought that was insane. But I was saying he could do a job for us when he comes back from his ban, because I wanted him to come back in the January for Manchester United. Thought that might be worth a tickle. Club obviously never showed any indication that they were going to do that. He comes back into the Brentford side, scores a few goals, but then his goals dry up. And now he's in this sort of weird situation where it doesn't look like he's quite got the suitors. The one thing that did put me off a little bit with Ivan Toney was some of the interviews he gave. He just gave interviews, didn't he, where he was basically saying, I've had enough of it, I'm leaving Brentford. And it was weird, because usually when a player does that, you get a bit of a backlash. Like, the manager might get a bit miffed with you, the club themselves might be a bit miffed with you, even the fans will turn against you. But everyone sort of accepted it. Ivan Toney sort of saying, yeah, Brentford's great and whatever, but I'll be off in the summer. He might not be. He might have to eat a little bit of humble pie. Yeah, get involved in the chat and let me know what you think. I'll name this podcast later. It says, with Xerxes sorted and De Ligt on the way, I'd prefer a midfielder signing instead of Toney. We need a midfielder. Yep, 100%. Steve LP says, Jay, do you think with all the old boys leaving, we have not enough experience in the team? We've got Johnny Evans, haven't we? He's still there. Marcus Rashford isn't old, but he's got experience. Bruno's got experience. Harry Maguire's still here. He's got experience. Got Luke Shaw. Thank you, producer Joe. Joe Smith, I don't like calling producer Joe. Just shout it out. We've got quite a bit of experience in that team. I think there's a good mixture actually at United at the minute. You've got the youngsters like Garnacho, like Kobe Mainoo. Plus you've got 1 or 2 others who we're going to see later on today, who've been sort of earmarked as potentially getting a few appearances next season, like of Harry Mas, for example. Then you've got Evans, Shaw, Rashford, Bruno. There's experience there. Then you've got players who are a bit in the middle. Players who have got a bit of experience but not been at United along the likes of maybe Andre Onana or Mason Mount or whatever. So I think there's a good mixture at Manchester United at the minute. Let me know what you think. I mean, you want players who've got experience of winning things. And I think we've obviously got a little bit of that now as well, because we've just won the FA Cup. Right, let's talk a little bit about Luke Shaw. This made me chuckle. I saw this I think this popped up on my radar on News Now. And this is from The Mag. And it says, the independent voice of Newcastle United since, I can't even read that. Is it 1988, is it? I can't, sorry. So, Luke Shaw proves a disastrous decision as Kieran Trippier dropped. Now, I thought I'd misread this, because I was like, disastrous decision? What? Hey? How's that happened? And it's just basically talking about the Euros final, and that basically Kieran Trippier was dropped for Luke Shaw, and the decision proved an absolute disaster. Now, I watched the Euros final, and I'm not just going to be sticking up for Luke Shaw because he's a United player, although obviously I want him to do well, but I thought he did all right. I don't think any way, shape or form was the defeat to Spain Luke Shaw's fault. I thought he played well in the first half and he did all right in the second half. I don't get where this sort of disastrous decision thing has come from, other than the fact it's a Newcastle fanzine or a Newcastle website, sorry, who's a bit miffed that their player's been dropped. Bit silly, to be honest with you. I don't think that was a disastrous decision. I don't think it was. Get involved in the chat and the comments. It's quite funny, isn't it, seeing, like, you know, fans and stuff losing their minds. Just everyone's getting a bit tribal. We are tribal when it comes to England, aren't we? Like, I'm the most tribal person you can get. I basically supported Kobe Mainoo throughout the tournament rather than England. But the idea that Luke Shaw was a disastrous decision, yeah, not quite for me. Buffy whatever says, feck off, Luke Shaw played well. Tom Hartley says, Luke Shaw was one of our best players. Green Banana says, Shaw played well. Joe James John, Luke Shaw stopped Yamal from scoring. Adam says, Shaw was one of the better players on the pitch. Jonathan Ball says, Luke Shaw was mint. Red Devils 20 says, Luke Shaw is a serial loser though, is he? I'm not sure about that one. I think Luke Shaw's had 2 Euro finals where he's done well. He scored in one of them and played well, and in the other one he played well. And I think, actually, Gareth Southgate's decision with Luke Shaw was probably justified. I think I questioned it, taking a player who wasn't fit and not taking another out-and-out left-back, because I know Kieran Trippier played there, but he's not a left-back. I thought it was a bit of a gamble, and I didn't think it was the right gamble. But I think if you look at the fact he came into the last stage, he's played his part, and then played his part in the final, he probably got that right. I don't think England lost the Euros because of Luke Shaw. There's a part of me, to be honest with you, that thinks almost the best that we could have done, or England could have done, was getting to the final and losing to Spain. And I know that sounds defeatist, but I think had we faced Spain earlier in the competition, we would have been beaten by them. I think the best we could have done is played them in the final. And I think that, to be honest with you, they were just too good for us. And I've been Gareth Southgate's a critic, of Gareth Southgate, and maybe he should have, took someone like Marcus Rashford. It could have mixed it up a little bit. He should have definitely started Kobe Mainoo earlier. But even if he started Kobe Mainoo earlier, does that necessarily mean that he's better against Spain, or that we're better against Spain? I'm not so sure. I think that the ceiling was there for possibly not just Gareth Southgate, but for England as well, and that Spain was just too good. I do think it's time for Gareth Southgate to move on, though. I would like to see someone else come in with fresh ideas, and hopefully England can go one step further. It's been good watching England get to finals. It's something I'm not used to. I've never seen that before in my lifetime, because I wasn't alive in 1966, despite what some people may say. But it'd be good to see him go a step further. Whitbird Vicky says, Kane is a serial loser. Shaw wins trophies. Shaw has won trophies, yeah. Jonathan Ball says, definitely the best under Garbage Gate. There you go. That's a new moniker for Gareth Southgate. Garbage Gate. Yeah. Let's talk about the Copa America. There they are. The beautiful boys, Lisandro Martinez and Alejandro Garnacho, 2 of my favourite Manchester United players, 2 of my favourite players, full stop. They've won the Copa America. They beat, was it Colombia 1-0 last night? Good to see. Lisandro Martinez playing football again, winning trophies. Lisandro Martinez loves winning trophies, doesn't he? This man, he's had a reet time of it winning trophies over the last couple of years. He's won the Carabao, the FA Cup, the World Cup, and the Copa America. Hell. Alejandro Garnacho as well. Good to see him picking up trophies as well. It's a trophy, that as well, isn't it? Looking at it, there's 2 of them in there. I've seen Lisandro Martinez posing with 2 trophies. I don't know what's going on there. I don't understand it all, but yeah, they've won trophies anyway. Well done to them. Great to see that happening. They can have a little bit of a breather now. Hopefully come back next season. We need both of them next season. Alejandro Garnacho played, 30 games on the spin last season. He's obviously essential to Manchester United. And Lisandro Martinez, we missed him. He was a massive miss for Manchester United. I think the way that Erik ten Hag wants to play, Lisandro Martinez is integral to that. So it's good to see him playing, good to see him getting minutes. I saw a stat that Argentina didn't concede a goal while he was on the pitch during the Copa America. He's just amazing. And we saw it in that FA Cup final. I was so relieved when I saw he was back for the FA Cup final. And we wouldn't have won that FA Cup final without him. There's no doubt if you'd have swapped him for someone else. I don't think that happens. He's mint. So great to see him doing well. Enrico Daniel says, no Jadon Sancho returning reaction, or did I miss it? We spoke about it a little bit on the watch-along last night. I'll speak about it now. And we can speak about it a little bit on the watch-along later on with myself, Joe and McCullough. I think it makes sense. No one's coming for him with a bid that United are happy with. It's pretty obvious. Dortmund were suggesting maybe they could have him back on loan. Wasn't looking likely that they were going to put in a permanent bid for him, not for anything that United would consider good enough. you can't just ignore the kid. And I think just keeping him training with the kids, the under-18s, whatever, doesn't get us anywhere. Either he comes back into the squad and plays for Manchester United, or we move him on. Either way, you need him training. We hear that obviously him and Erik ten Hag have buried the hatchet to some degree. I'd like to see Jadon Sancho moved on. I would. I don't think he's been good enough for Manchester United. I think what Erik ten Hag said after the Arsenal game was fine. I've watched that post-match reaction when he was asked about Jadon Sancho. I don't think he was that harsh on him at all. And I think Jadon Sancho's reaction was OTT. And I don't think he's performed well enough and consistently enough for Manchester United. And I think it's probably best served if he was to move on. But I think the best way to move him on is probably get him back in the squad training, get him training with the first team. Hopefully he'll get some minutes in pre-season and someone will come in for him and you can sort of draw a line under it. We'll have to wait and see. I'm going to leave it there. Thanks to everyone who got involved in the comments in the chat. I'm going to be back later on today with that watch along. I'm going to go live at 4 o'clock this afternoon. So if you're not doing already, make sure you are subscribing to the channel. I'm Jay Moyer. This has been The Paper Talk. Thanks for watching.